A Paradise Called Texas by Janice Jordan Scheffelman. Chapter 18, A Dream. Mina ran all the way to the doctor's cabin. Hurry, hurry was all she could think as she ran. Dr. Schubert, Mina called. He appeared in the doorway of the log cabin, wiping his mouth on the back of his hand. Please come see my papa. He has a high fever. The doctor was a large, heavy-set man with a full, dark beard. Now, Mina, do not fret. Your papa will be all right. He is a strong man. But he looks so tired. Dr. Schubert patted Mina on the head as though she were a little child. Run along back to your papa. I will come directly as soon as my supper is finished. Mina stood there for a moment. She wanted him to come right now. She did not like being patted on the head. No, I will not run along. My papa is sick, and I want you to do something about it now. Mina felt fierce. She felt that if Dr. Schubert did not come of his own accord, she would grab him by his beard and drag him there. She must have looked as fierce as she felt, because Dr. Schubert's mouth fell open. He said nothing for a moment, then a slow grin broke over his face. Well, little Fraulein, you have a lot of spirit. Then his face became serious again. But children do not order grown-ups about. He pulled on his bushy beard. Mina wondered if he knew she thought of grabbing it. After supper, I will come. With that, he turned and went back into the cabin. Mina felt helpless and alone. She imagined dragging the doctor, kicking and yelling by his beard down the road. Children do not order grown-ups about. But instead, she turned and ran toward home. It felt good to run. She hated the doctor. She hated having to depend on him for Papa's life. Outside the cabin, she stopped, took a deep breath, and tried to calm herself. She went in to Papa. His eyes were closed, but they fluttered open as she came close to him. Dr. Schubert is coming, Papa. Papa said nothing, but patted Mina's hand on the bed beside him. After a while, Dr. Schubert did come. Mina waited outside the cabin while he examined Papa. The sky was growing dark, and Mina wished she could hold back the night. At last, Dr. Schubert came out. Your papa needs rest, Mina, and you must keep a wet pack on his forehead to cool his fever. Very well. Mina looked into the doctor's face, searching for an answer to the question in her mind, will Papa get well? But she was afraid to ask him. I will come back tomorrow to see how he was doing. And with that, Dr. Schubert walked off to the road, leaving Mina alone to care for Papa during the long night. She hurried back into the cabin. The only light was the candle beside his bed. Papa's eyes were closed. Mina dampened a cloth, folded it, placed it gently across his forehead. She saw that a rash had broken out on his face and neck. What can be wrong with Papa, Mina wondered. That night she sat by Papa's bed without sleeping. His breathing was shallow and rapid. He groaned and tossed from side to side, throwing off the wet pack. Mina hurried to wet it again and put it back on his forehead. Suddenly, Papa sat bolt upright, his eyes wide open. Minchin, Minchin, he exclaimed, and held out his arms before him. Papa! Mina held him by the shoulders and tried to get him to lie down. Papa looked at her, but did not seem to see her. At last, he slumped back on the pillow. He mumbled some more words, but Mina could not understand. The candle was burning low now, and there were no more in the cabin. The flame flickered brightly and then went out. Mina could not see Papa's face, but she could hear his rapid breathing. She thought of the night that seemed so long ago when Mama had stopped breathing. Oh, Papa, do not leave me. Do not leave me all alone. Saying those words released the sobs Mina had held back. Papa, Papa, do not leave me, she repeated over and over again. Then, falling on her knees, she cried out, Please, God, help Papa. Do not let him die. At last, she was so exhausted, she lay quietly with her head next to Papa's arm, and then she began to dream. She was riding a horse. Fast, so fast that he left the ground. His silky mane flew about Mina's face. It was dark except for the perfectly round moon, and the horse flew straight toward it. As they got closer, the moon grew larger and larger until it filled the sky, and Mina was surrounded by white light. In the distance was the dark speck. As they came closer, she saw that it was Chief Castelletta. He stood perfectly still, looking at her. His black hair shone in the white light, and Mina's hair in his braid was silvery. He put his hands on the horse's back, swung himself up behind Mina, and away they went. They rode on and on into the moon's light. The light became so bright that Mina had to shield her eyes. Then a glimmering being took shape. It was an ancient Indian with white hair. "Can you help my papa?" Mina asked. The Indian nodded his head. There was a moaning sound and Mina awoke. It was the morning. She lifted her head from Papa's bed and heard him moan again. He was still burning with fever, but now Mina knew what she must do. Dreams were not to be ignored. God spoke to Joseph in Egypt through dreams, and now he had spoken to Mina.